Hey guys, this is Paul. Please like and subscribe. I apologize for the intermittent videos. As you can see, I am in another hotel room. I'm still traveling. I won't be back home for a little bit, but I wanted to really talk to you about the Brigade Detachment. This is, for Warhammer 40k 8th edition, where in the rulebook, there's 15 or so detachments that all capture different ways to build the armies and have different benefits. Whereas before there was the command benefits, now they give or sometimes even take away some number of command points. And the brigade detachment is pretty hard to fill out for most armies. And I'll just tell you why: is it has a minimum of 3 HQs, 6 troops, 3 elites, three fast attack, 3 heavy support, and it even has an open slot for flyers and then dedicated transports past that. But the reason this is hard to fill out is because all those mandatory requirements add up quick. Things like vehicles typically cost a little bit more in this edition than they did before. But let me tell you who doesn't suffer with the brigade detachment, and that is the Astra Militarum. The Astra Militarum have a lot of the war gear and weapons and things like that the Imperium gets. Except a lot of that stuff got a little bit better. But with the way that Astra Militarum is structured is that everything gets access to those toys. So when the toys got better, and then the Astra Militarum got a different revamp, and in some cases better. You can't do certain things like build platoons out like you did before, but you can buy things like a lot of tanks, and a lot of things are pretty inexpensive for them. I think with the idea that they'll be removed from the table unless you're able to line up any kind of mitigation. But they have that built in too. We'll talk about that for a second. So in the HQ slot, the Lord Commissar, you can take him. He's very cheap. You can even take a couple of them, and you'll need that to help fill out your troop section. If you're trying to maximize the big guns, and I don't know why you wouldn't necessarily in this edition, you really want to take cheap on the troops. So conscripts are where it's at. You may have seen this talked about on the internet, but I can tell you 100% that conscripts with morale mitigations in the form of a commissar are where it's at. You are able to essentially use the commissar's leadership within a certain distance of him, and then he makes sure via his summary execution rule that you don't lose more than one modeled loss to morale. So that's big. Your bubble wrap, your picket lines will all last a long time with the use of these commissars, and you're going to want to take them because you're going to want to fill out the minimum requirements for this brigade detachment to get yourself the 12 command points. Going down to elites, I'm actually a big fan of the catechins. Harker lets you reroll shooting attacks of a 1 for catechins. That's big because all the tanks and stuff have regiment, or they have the regiment in brackets, allowing you to choose which regiment. And if you go with catechins and Harker, gives you some extra insurance. Rattlings, you guys may have caught me on the live stream on the Games Workshop Facebook page where they were doing their 8th edition spectacular 24-hour live stream event. I was very fortunate enough. Those guys were amazing hosts and let me do a little commentary as well as play a game. I got to play my beloved Blood Angels. They didn't do all that well, but let me tell you, in a power level match, the Tyranids are strong. They may be strong in a points match play too. But anyway, I was very happy to be there and take part in that. Wonderful people. The enthusiasm was high the whole weekend. It was, again, just amazing to be there. But Rattlings, with their role to be able to move and target characters, and their sniper rifles getting the additional, when you roll a 6 to wound, it does an additional mortal wound. So you wounded, you could potentially get 2 wounds, and one of those being a mortal wound. So, 20, 40, 50 Rattlings, I'm not saying go that far, I've got 20 in this list just to satisfy the requirements. You're going to be able to stack up some wounds on characters with their range, and when they get to move, they get a little bit of move shenanigans. The Master of Ordnance, he allows you to reroll 1s for your ordnance batteries like Death Strike missiles and Basilisk if you're within a certain amount of inches from him and the target is over a certain amount of inches away. So it's got that really cool kind of theme element to it while being immensely powerful. And this guy, he's 38 points. He is cheap. He's incredibly cheap. And if you didn't want to go Rattlings or didn't want to go Harker, if you weren't playing catechins, you can use him as an elite choice, and again, he's very cheap. And that's what I want to point out. These things in the Imperial Guard, Astra Militarum, are very inexpensive point-wise, and so this brigade detachment, which I thought was pretty much unattainable because of all the requirements themselves, You can easily do that. You can do that a lot with the Imperial Soup type list. 6 Sentinels. Well, all with the last cannons, you guys, if you listen to the podcast, you know how I feel about Sentinels. I think they're the standout unit. They get an amazing amount of value out of their movement phase. Before the game, they can even move 9 inch, or not within 9 inch. Sorry, they can move. They have to stay outside of 9 inches from an opponent. This means, let's say that your opponent has, I don't know, a Bane Blade or a Helldrake that you think is going to scoot over and get tied up with your army, and you happen to go first. And I'll tell you in a second how I think you can help ensure that. Ensure is a bad word. You can help get some favorable, better odds to do that. It's probably about the best way to say it. Is that you can move up outside of 9 inches from an opponent. If you happen to go first, you move and then you charge. And the Scout Sentinels have a good movement. So in this game where everything behaves like everything else, you're able to jump up and lock down a vehicle. So if it doesn't want to just sit there and do its little pitiful attacks against you, it's gotta fall back. And then it gives up its shooting for that turn. And that, what you're doing is establishing momentum during the game. And that's not something everybody can do. These are things that can do that you want to watch out for. I know this video is getting long, so I'll go ahead and say Hellhound. Don't overlook the Hellhound. As we discovered, now I didn't even know this until we started doing commentary on the live stream. This thing explodes on a 4+ and dishes out mortal wounds. So it's up there, firing its Inferno Cannon and Heavy Bolter. Remember, everything's got split fire, so you're threatening lots of targets, maybe causing morale morale checks and whatnot. But then to add insult to injury, when they finally beat the thing down, has a lot higher chance that it blows up. I mentioned, taking a bunch of units of 20 conscripts, 6 units of 20 conscripts each to satisfy that condition. Then the Basilisks. The Basilisks are an incredible buy. The Earthshaker Cannon comes on it. You take the Heavy Bolters. Again, you're not wasting shots, whereas before you used to be wasting shots, but now with everything firing independently, you're able to, kind of lend support where you want. A couple of Lehman Russes, also very inexpensive. 3 Heavy Bolters and a Battle Cannon. Again, you don't waste shots. You're able to fire from any point of the model, and then you're getting those shots downrange with the Battle Cannon. And then what you've done is before you know it, you've still got a few points left over in a 2,000-point game. You've satisfied that Brigade Detachment, and the Brigade Detachment gives you 9 command points. So with 9 command points, get your 3 for being battle forged. That gives you 12 command points. I'm sure that there are other armies that can do this, but look for those. Look for things that I don't feel like I made any bad choices or concession choices in the list that I ran down for you. So again, but it is early in 8th. You never know. Some of these things might not pan out to be as exciting as I think that they are right now, but being able to have that almost impenetrable wall with your conscripts and commissars in between you and your tanks, I think you're going to be able to pile up wounds on things, which is pretty good, and give you some mobility in the form of the vehicles in a bit. But I know that tournaments may have their own kind of take on this, but you're probably not going to go first with your deployment drops. You're going to have a bunch of deployment drops. Now, you don't have anything like transports to hide in. Even if you were deploying in reserves, they still count as deployment drops. But you can burn one of those precious command points to re-roll the Seize the Initiative. And again, I think every tournament is going to kind of get their own spin on that. So buyer beware as far as that goes. But the 12 command points give you flexibility. I think I'm going to be one of those players that burns through my command points really quickly in the early part of the game. But I think if I can convert some of those D6 hits from the big guns from a 1 to a 6 or a 5, and then re-rolling the 1s for the hits from these either Harker or the Master of Ordnances or whatever, I think I'm going to really deliver some massive blows to my opponent, and I think that's going to give me a big advantage later in the game. So maybe I won't need any more command points saved up, but with 12, I probably will have at least 1 or 2 in the bank. Anyway, that's all I want to talk about right now. I appreciate you guys watching. I want to hear your comments below. What are some other ways that you've discovered with other factions to maybe get into this Brigade Detachment without compromising any powerful choices? Anyway, thanks a lot, and we'll talk to you soon.